have a passion, hobby, or expertise and want to share it with the world, why not do a podcast? The Pod Station offers a wide range of packages to make this a reality, ranging from training and support for those who have no idea where to begin, to podcasters who just need somewhere to host their show. With prices starting at a mere £15 per month, you can now get involved in one of the fastest growing entertainment forms in the world without all the headaches. To find out more, visit thepodstation.co.uk/station-packages. And remember, those with passion, podcast. You're listening to the Business Spotlight, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Business Spotlight. My name's Mark, I'm one of the co-owners of the Pod Station, and just briefly for the benefit of our first-time listeners, what we did was during the worldwide pandemic, we created this show hopefully to give smaller businesses an opportunity to exhibit their expertise and perhaps give you some useful pointers and tips that might help you in that same arena. And also give them a bit of exposure as well. So whilst I'm on the point of explaining it, I should perhaps also say that if you as a small business owner feel that you would benefit from being on the show as a guest, then by all means email us at thebusinessspotlight@thepodstation.co.uk or get in touch with us via any of our social media pages. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn at the Pod Station, and we'll happily send you out an application form to get you all booked in. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest for today. Now, he's a familiar voice on the Pod Station because he has his very own podcast show. His dulcet tones are ones that I love to hear on a regular basis, not least because I co-host a show with him. So he's not an unfamiliar guest, but he's definitely a first appearance on the Business Spotlight. So, without further ado, introducing the fabulous Mr. Chris Roxburgh from My Marketing Guy. How are we doing, Chris?
Well, that's very kind, Mark. I'm doing well, thank you. Yes, looking forward to this next half hour, 1.5 hours, wherever it goes.
Well, it depends on how much I edit down from what you're talking. If it's an original version, it might be 3 to 4 hours, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to try and be nice to you on this show. I feel I should be the consummate professional.
I'll settle for that.
For the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with you, do you want to just explain about what you do and what your business does, and then people will perhaps have a better idea of where we're headed on this show?
Yes, of course, yeah. I've been a marketing consultant and social media trainer for the last 10 years, and I've helped a lot of business people come to terms with social media because it isn't the natural habitat of the more mature business person, and there's been a fear about it over the years. That's receding now, but I've helped a lot of people, hundreds of people over the years, just come to terms with social media and make it work for them.
And what about the younger audiences, the people who are perhaps the newer business generation? They obviously know lots about social media, perhaps having grown up with it or become quite familiar. How do you fit into their orbit?
It's quite interesting that actually, because yes, you would expect the younger generations to be more au fait with social media, and so they are. But social media for personal consumption rather than for business consumption, and it is a different animal with business, and I have had a good number of much younger people, 20s, 30s, than the norm on my workshops, and they have found it beneficial because, as I say, social media for marketing in business is quite different than just going on Facebook and keeping in touch with your friends.
Just sticking with that point for a second, what would you say the two differences are then between what you'd post as a personal one and what you might post for a business perspective?
Well, I remember one of the first workshops I did. There was a lady there, and she said, "Oh, I'm against all this social media stuff." We're going back probably 8 years now. I'm against all this social media stuff. I don't like it. I'm on Twitter, and I hate seeing all that porn and bad language and so on and so forth.
Where was she looking on Twitter, by the
Well,
way?
that was the point, Mark. That was the point. I said, well, you'll only see, in general, you'll only see posts from the people that you're connected to. So who are you generally connected to? We were talking about the feed here on Twitter, and she went a bit red. She'd obviously sought it out. I hope she's not listening to this. She'd obviously sought it out at some stage, and then forgotten that, or not been aware that this will come back to haunt her if she doesn't do something about it. So it was that sort of example in the early days where people just didn't know how to use it for business use. Um, and there is a world of difference, isn't there, between telling people, "Oh, I feel a bit hot here. I'm going to open the window," and putting that on Facebook. And we do see that, don't we? Well, I don't, because I only follow sensible people.
There is plenty of dross out there to be found.
I've heard it's about, yes. Um, and having a structured, well thought out marketing campaign of business messages, which no doubt we'll go into in a little more detail later. But there's a structure to the business presence that there isn't to a personal account.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Turning back towards your business, I guess, because this is perhaps a story which will feel quite familiar to plenty of other businesses. We're recording this in, well, I'll say the end of May 2021, so we're just coming out at the end of a 14/15 month lockdown, essentially, as a result of the COVID pandemic. I know, because of course we've spoken, and indeed you've touched upon it on the Go Fish podcast on a number of occasions, how the pandemic did affect your business, because you've obviously mentioned workshops, and presumably they were carried out in person prior to that being something that could land us all in hospital.
That's right. Last March, my workshop business just fell off a cliff because Boris went on the box that Monday evening that we all remember, and said, "Right, you're all going to remain indoors now, and these are the rules," and so on and so forth. And emails came in following day to me: "Awfully sorry, Chris, can't do any more trainings, got to pull the workshops," and so on and so forth. So I panicked for an hour or two and thought, well,
I'm done. That's it.
Yeah. In common with every other small business owner in the country, I imagine, for different reasons. But I then thought, okay, well, let the dust settle. And a couple of days later, I rang my main client who was giving me training work and said, "Look, what about if I rewrite these workshops and we deliver them as webinars? I can split a day's worth of workshop into two, let's say, 90-minute webinars, because the thing about the workshops is there's plenty of interaction. You do go around the room, helping people with particular issues, if they're amending their profiles or whatever they might be doing. So we split it into two 90-minute sessions, and I carried on. It was I won't say it was seamless, but it was business continuity, which was so important. And that was the case with other training companies I was working for as well.
Oh,
So that was they called it pivoting, didn't they? So I had a quick pivot, and we carried on, not as normal. Income suffered, as did everybody else's, I'm sure. But at least turnover, a certain amount of turnover was there.
and what about the other side of the business, the sort of the social media management side of things and the marketing strategy elements of that you generally do? Because all the statistics that I come across show that the use of social media, particularly when we weren't allowed to do anything else and were locked between the four walls of our house, went through the roof.
Yes, and that was a double-edged sword for me, really. I had clients who they were inquiries at the time who were asking me to look after their social media for them, because I do act as an outsourced social media manager for clients. And it's work that I enjoy. An awful lot of people you speak to find writing social media posts pretty tedious, and one of them might be looking at me at the moment.
For the benefit of the tape, I've just raised my hand.
During the pandemic, a lot of people had a lot of time on their hands, and we know, as you've just pointed out, that social media went through the roof. Social media activity, that is. LinkedIn was never so popular for business people because at last they had the time to attend to it. So that sort of business for me came to a bit of a standstill, because people who'd previously inquired about outsourcing with me suddenly found they had all this time available, and it would have been silly not to use that time profitably. So they got themselves involved on social media. Now, however, and you've just named the date, it's 26th of May. People are going back to work. Normality, to a degree, is returning. Certainly, people are getting busier. And my own belief is that social media will suffer within businesses because that time isn't available. So you and I are collaborating on a campaign at the moment for a social media outsourcing push for my company, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the results of that are.
You mentioned how so many people started using it because they had more time on their hands, and perhaps they haven't had previously. And it's a very difficult question to ask because A, there's so much of it, and B, your ability to view stuff will have been very limited by way of algorithms and just the time you've spent on those platforms. But from what you did see, when people were doing those posts because they now had the time, what was it like in terms of quality? What was it like in terms of appearing to form a structured strategy? Or was it just because they had more time, they just were able to throw out more random stuff that probably was neither use nor ornament from a business perspective?
Well, as you say, I can only go by what I saw. And what I did see was a mix from one end of the scale to the other. There was one end of the scale that became a very Facebooky on LinkedIn, and too sociable on a LinkedIn business page as well. On a Facebook business page as well. LinkedIn it's a professional platform for businesses, and we don't need to know that spring has sprung and the flowers are blooming, and and I'm just taking the dog for a walk, and that is your personal Facebook information. It's nothing to do with business. Okay, you can mention spring, you can mention optimism returning with the spring and the spring flowers and sunshine, if you like, but make it business related. So that was one end of the scale. There was an awful lot of dross. Um, the other end of the scale were the people who were obviously super organized and were working to a plan, and that plan was being adhered to. And that plan with all the social media is varying the message, but um, having a theme running throughout the week, or the month. So if you're promoting service or product A, you might do that 2 or 3 times during the week, but you'll throw in something else as well. You'll throw in something else to vary it up. You'll share other people's posts. You'll be active and engaging on social media rather than just sell, 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 which I do see a bit of.
With lockdown now easing and things opening up again, and I use the word cautiously, normality returning somewhat. How has things changed now? Has the time that people had to do their social media disappeared? Has the usage dropped? Have you seen the quality become less, or are you getting more demand for helping to manage accounts because people are now finding that they've got to juggle normal life and normal business demands with what they were doing when they had plenty of time on their hands?
No, I'm not seeing it yet because I think it's a little early. We're only the second week into relative normality, although people have been returning to their place of work for a little while. There are the stirrings of activity. I think it's when people in business realise that they haven't had the time for social media that they did have, because that's what I offer them. I offer them time saved by looking after their social media to an agreed strategy. I mean, I don't just go ahead and do it. We sit down, we talk about it, we discuss the objectives, we discuss how we're going to get there, and then I put it into practice. That saves them an enormous amount of time and ensures that they maintain their social media activity despite being as busy as they've ever been. So they might be in a meeting in London. They will still have a social media post going out across 3-4 platforms to maintain their presence. And that's visibility is all important.
It's a strange one in social media when it comes to the tangibility of what you described as what the outcomes hopefully will be, what the purpose is for which they're trying to do this campaign. I've come across plenty of people who say, I want more followers or I want more work, and because they've seen other people have success, assume that there is a magic what's the word I'm looking, a magic spell that will deliver the same results for them. When you sit down with clients who want those kind of outcomes, how does that conversation go? What are the kind of things that you're realistically telling them that they should be trying to look to achieve? What sort of timescales? What sort of budgets? Are these all relevant factors to trying to get the outcome of 1 million followers and loads of work?
Well, I'd be doing that myself if I could do that. There are some basics to go through first before we start talking about objectives and new business and thousands of new followers. The first thing to do is to have a look and see what they're doing at the moment, and is their branding consistent across all the platforms? Are they putting out the same message across all the platforms about themselves, just in their branding? Because I'm sure you would believe, but a lot of people wouldn't believe that many companies have completely different branding for every single platform they're on, and that might be different to their website. So uniformity of branding and a complete review of how they've set their platforms up is the absolute basis of any sort of success that they might have in achieving targets that they would want me to hit. Um, with LinkedIn, the profile has to be completely relevant to the visitor who would be ostensibly their target market. So we have to have to achieve complete relevancy on LinkedIn in terms of the profile, their personal profile, and the business profile. Same on Facebook, lesser extent on Twitter because you can't say or do as much. Instagram, similar, you can't say or do as much with your background banners and your profile pictures. But consistency, you can certainly achieve consistency. And then we sit down with a calendar and we say, right, what's happening this year? Where do you want to go? What are the targets with social media? Is it followers? And if so, why? Is it business? Because it should be. We should be attracting business with the messages that we're putting out, and an active social media presence is all important to maintain the visibility and to assist hitting those targets.
What's one of the biggest challenges you find when you're having these conversations? Is it managing expectations? I assume most people think that they can offer a free bottle of champagne as a competition, and overnight they'll have all the work and all the business and all the followers they could possibly ever imagine, ignoring the fact that there's probably thousands of other businesses offering a more expensive bottle of champagne for the same period with a better chance of winning, etc.
I once saw somebody offer a fiver.
I'd still enter,
We are going back a little while, but and that fiver, the response to that was absolutely enormous. It's amazing what hoops people will jump through for a fiver, and there was only one fiver available. It wasn't a fiver for everyone. It was a prize. But you have to be a little bit more imaginative, and this is what we're doing. Competitions are great for generating interest, generating activity, and getting new followers and new business, frankly, because the greater awareness will ultimately bring you new business.
Okay. Moving on slightly then from the social media management side of things back to the workshops. How's this going to change now that we are starting to be able to meet face to face again? Are you going to revert back to how it was? Is it going to be a mixture? Do you see there being a particularly high demand for one or the other? Do you think people have now got a taste for the online world and actually prefer the comfort of their own armchair whilst learning the wonders of LinkedIn?
The training clients I have are keen to get back to workshops, which suits me fine, because I can deliver more in a day on a workshop than I can in 2 90-minute webinars. The webinars are they give excellent value, but they are a second best. And I think we've all understood this with, you and I both go networking, and the experience of a face-to-face networking session is quite different to the Zoom or the online alternative. So yes, people are looking to get back to workshops. I will be advertising a couple of dates of my own when I've got a location coming back to me in Warrington, where I've had success in the past. It's midway between Chester, Manchester, and there's quite a big business community in Warrington, so it's a good area for me. And but the location are still humming and ahhing about whether or not they can manage a socially distanced event like that. I think they will, but if they can't, I'll find somewhere else, because places are offering this now. So I'm looking forward to getting a few dates in the diary and on the website for those. As far as my clients are concerned, who are training companies, they've tentatively put the first date in the diary as being September.
Okay.
So that's the first one I'm looking at as a face to face workshop.
So you're going to ditch the webinars completely then?
Well, they are. They're keen to. Whether or not I do probably depends on the success or otherwise of advertising this workshop, because I don't think there was any doubt, for me anyway, that people began to go off the idea of Zoom training. There's just so much of it. And yes, I was on a Zoom training last night, so I can hardly say it doesn't work, but it becomes less effective. People are wanting the personal touch, I think, now. So that's what I'm keen to get back to. Interesting
indeed. It'd be for me. I sort of feel that perhaps people are a little bit over zoomed at the moment, but that It might be something that they come back to gradually once they've realised that the world is as it was when they left it, and when they've reacquainted themselves with the ability to go to the restaurant for a meal or go to the shop to buy something, and it becomes the norm again. Perhaps they'll return back to the online world in addition to what was already there.
Well, I always believed that there would be a sort of a happy hybrid, that we'd do a mixture of Zoom and face to face. And I think you're right. I think I am giving the webinars a bit of a rest from a personal perspective for the time being, but I'm not dismissing them. They're there. It's just a question of timing. I want to see how the face-to-face workshops work, because if they really do work again as they did before, then my energies will go into that rather than the Zoom. But I'm not dismissing the Zoom in any way, shape or form. It's been a lifeline for the last 14 months or so.
Absolutely. When you talk about managing businesses, social media platforms, you obviously mean all of them, but you do very much have a specialty area, which is LinkedIn. So do you just want to explain, I suppose, what it is about LinkedIn that particularly you've found yourself drawn towards, and then what sorts of specialisms have come from that you can help people with on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I find LinkedIn increasingly fascinating, and people might be listening to this saying, "What a sad case we're listening to here," but it's and I say this frequently, and it's the best sales aid that a business person could have. I've said to you before, I'm sure, it doesn't go off sick, doesn't moan. It's never too hot in the office or too cold in the office. It sits there and will work for you 24/7. I delivered yesterday my first webinar on an advanced LinkedIn. It was an advanced LinkedIn training. And this is going beyond the, setting your profile up and optimizing and so on and so forth. This is getting into the real nitty gritty of LinkedIn, and there's the psychology behind it, the way certain profiles can be set up in a way that will attract people to look for more, and possibly to pick that phone up and ring you. Try and put your phone number on a post or a message that you put out, or especially an article, because people do ring you. You might not want them, Mark, but the one of the main advantages of LinkedIn is that on the 24/7 aspect of it, is that many business people will have a look at it before they go to work in the morning. They'll have a quick look at it when they get to work, and they'll perhaps pass on it during the working day and pick it up again in the evening. So your message can be seen, your posts can be seen all of the time.
There's lots of things you can do with it. You've talked about the benefit of it working for you 24/7, but what's working for you 24/7? What sort of tools are available on LinkedIn that's particularly piqued your interest?
One of LinkedIn's issues, I don't suppose it's an intentional issue, but there are a lot of facilities available to you that they don't actually tell you fully about. And it's that I try to get under the skin of LinkedIn and empower people who come to the workshops or who I do trainings with, empower them to use these whistles and bells that will make their LinkedIn profile and their LinkedIn presence absolutely sing. We don't use. I've just found video messaging. So somebody will ask to connect with you, and instead of just saying yes, great to connect, or even worse, nothing, just accepting it as a connection, you send them either a video message or an audio message, and it's so simple to do. And I've known people who have been out and about on a walk, and they've just gone on the LinkedIn profile. Oh, there's a message come in from somebody wants to connect with me. I'll press this button. And do you know what? The results of doing something like that, which is so personal, is I was going to say 100 times more effective, but I can't statistically back that up. So I'm going to say is markedly more effective than just the okay, thanks, good to connect. If you can video yourself walking along the prom saying, just got your message, great to connect. If there's anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to get in touch. My email address is guy@mymarketingguy.co.uk. That sort of a video or audio message, just so much more effective than the written word, and that's not something that many people are doing.
They've got lots of weird bells. I think you hit the nail on the head where they don't particularly promote it massively, and it's an odd thing to do because we use it for business purposes and on quite a regular basis, and yet even I find things out secondhand, as it were, going, oh, I didn't know it did that. So sending out invitations for people to like your business page was something that LinkedIn hadn't particularly promoted to me, and again I found out about that sort of secondhand. And since then I've been sort of telling anyone and everyone who it might benefit along the way. They've got other things. I mean, you've mentioned the video message in there. On your profile, I think you can have an audio clip now, I presume, to give an introduction. I keep meaning to do it, but never quite find the time, and I will do it, and on the basis I have here equipment that can probably allow me to do it relatively effectively. I don't have much excuse, but it's odd, isn't it? And I presume these are the kind of things that you cover in your advanced training workshops.
Yes, it's the relatively minor bits and pieces that, if you put them all together collectively, you've got such a powerful presence if you use all those facilities. I'm not going to reel them off here. People will have to come on the workshop for that. But,
ooh, you tease.
But there is, and there are, I call them free advertising opportunities on the webinars and the workshops. In as much as, even the background banner and the headline under your name, those are very, very basic ones. And the About Us section, where everybody takes it literally and writes about them. but the only people that's going to be interested in that are going to be their mothers. So, if you or I are dropping on a profile, we want to know what's in it for us. And why should we expect anyone dropping on our profile to think any different? So remember the old "what's in it for me" acronym, people, because when you write your about section, put yourself in the position of a visitor.
And in terms of the what's in it for me, you do actually help people with specific campaigns on LinkedIn to help generate leads and to generate interest.
Yes, the LinkedIn lead generation has become a bit of a favorite activity of mine, and I've helped dozens of people now over the last 2 or 3 years, not only build up their following, but also achieve business by using a specific technique of not only connecting with people, but then following it up and then following it up again. And once again, I know what people are thinking, that, oh God, what he's saying is, well, we sell to them as soon as they connect with us. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is engage with them, because selling is all about helping people. Selling is a harsh word. Helping is a much better word. And if we can convince people connecting with us on not just LinkedIn but all social media that we're nice, fluffy people to work with, and that we're all around good eggs and we know what we're talking about, then and it's much easier to work with a nice person who's engaging with you than somebody who's a bit brusque and isn't that bothered whether he's got the business or not. And so I do like to engage with people when they come onto my profile. That engagement might fall away because neither of us are particularly committed to it, but there will be the ones where business will result.
Fantastic. I guess we should wrap it up really with people being provided with your contact information, so that if any of what we've been discussing does sound of interest, and having worked with Chris in many ways, shapes and forms, I can highly recommend both his workshops or webinars, if that's your preference, and certainly the LinkedIn aspect of things, or indeed the social media management. I know a couple of the clients that you work with and the stuff's great. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can contact me through my email address, which I mentioned earlier is Guy, Guy, at mymarketingguy, and there are 2 G's in the middle of that, .co.uk. Mark always finds it amusing that I add the 2 G's in the middle, but I have missed a number of emails because I didn't know there were 2 G's in the middle. I got that wrong. So I always say 2 G's in the middle, don't I? You
do indeed. Perhaps you need to buy the domain version with only 1 G in the middle, just
That's a good idea.
Just to capture that missing stuff.
Yes. And I can be found on all the various social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. I'm more active on LinkedIn than the other 3, it's fair to say. So you can find me there under my name, Chris Roxburgh.
Indeed. We'll stick all the links in the show notes if that is of interest. Chris, thank you very much for spending some time with us and telling us all about what you're up to today. It's been as pleasant as always.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Mark. Thank you for the opportunity.
And if you think your business would like to be featured on the Business Spotlight, as I said at the outset, the Business Spotlight at thepodstation.co.uk, drop an email, contact us through social media. If you enjoyed the show, give us a review. That always helps to spread the word, get us seen by more people, and hopefully it might help people as well. Thanks for listening, guys. Chris, thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch you next time. Bye now.
Bye now.
If you'd like to submit your business to be on the show, simply email spotlight@thepodstation.co.uk or message us on social media at The Podstation on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter. Check out all our shows exclusively on thepodstation.co.uk.